Hey guys, Sean here. Today, Luke and I will be doing a tier list on the best decks of all time. So let's get right into it.
So we have a few tiers here. Of course, we have I'ma Guess What You're Playing, tearing the game apart, spiraling out of control, burn for 200, and sit tight bro, FTK time.
Let's go, let's begin.
Yeah, so these are all decks that like won worlds and stuff like that.
Or just, very meta relevant decks. But yeah, a lot of these have won worlds or just have topped big events or have been meta defining. Alright, so we have Frogs. So, this won the 2010 World Championships. Frogs are epic, but they're a bit outdated. Actually, no, let's be fair here. Some of the Frog cards are so good they got banned, so they deserve to be like high up.
Yo, Ronan Tonin is still fucking bad.
Yeah.
I think, here's the thing, I want to say like, sit tight bro, time for the FTK, just because I know the Frogs can FTK, and it's really fucking funny that they can. But I don't know if Frog FTK is still viable in like today's sort of games, with the fact that we have so many hand traps, so many ways to interrupt, and so many ways that we can kind of interfere with like Frogs now, that it probably won't be as good. Frogs in their prime now probably won't be as good as they were. I would say spiraling out of control is probably the best place for them, just because they topped at a time where interaction between players on the opponent's turn was very minimal, so spiraling out of control is probably the right place for them to be.
Thunder Dragons, I think they go about here simply because Colossus is one hell of a card. It's a droll on legs, pretty much a super easy droll that you can summon that's really hard to get rid of. Part of one of the best formats, Toss format. It was just a really good deck. All the Thunder Dragons revolved around like banishing them for effects, so very difficult to interact with. In terms of like modern day, they're like decent, you can play them. On Master Duel they're pretty damn good. But yeah, I think if they unbanned Colossus, the deck would still be good, but it would not be as good as it was, in Toss format.
Yeah, probably. The fact that Colossus is still banned really shows off the power of this deck. One thing I just love decks that have like the worst monsters, like monsters that came all the way from Legend of Blue Eyes, and just made them good, because Thunder Dragons were like OGs, and the fact that they have like a meta-defining format, I think is fucking hilarious. So yeah, I think it deserves to be the spot where it is.
We got ABC. I remember when ABC was like dominating. There was a small period where this deck was like a menace. It did see a little bit of playability when the Adventure engine came out. I saw Adventure ABC being like a decent deck. Now that Ancient Fairy Dragon's off the list as well, you can run it as kind of like a field spell deck. If we're talking about the best decks of all time, it's not too high up there. Let's be kind of fair here. Maybe about here.
I still think Frogs are better, to be honest with you. I will defend Frogs till the day I die. Frogs are based as fuck, unless if you're playing them in Sprite.
Okay, Dinosaurs! This is kind of a tough one. I feel like Dinosaurs with 3 Misc are better than Thunder Dragons with Colossus. That's just my take. Dinosaurs are awesome. Dinosaurs were really strong, especially when they had 3 Misc and 3 Pank. What a time to be alive. But then they had to, hit Misc, which was totally unnecessary. We didn't need to ban that. The deck is still very playable. It's been playable basically since the structure deck came out. So yeah, I think it belongs above Thunder Dragons. But it's not, the greatest deck of all time, but it definitely left its mark on the competitive scene.
No, I think if you bring back Miss, Dinosaurs would be crazy. I think every person will be playing Dinosaurs if Miss was at 3. Just the fact that you have searchable, like, whole turn protection of all of your guys is absolutely insane.
Pretty base.
It's so base, it's crazy. Misk is just such a powerful card. Limiting it was the best way to go, to be quite honest with you. Because just the fact that a lot of your interruptions like target like imperm and stuff like that, and you can't really interact with that under Misk. Dinosaurs are absolutely crazy. If you brought Misk back to 3, everyone will be having a dinosaur deck. I guarantee you that. And the fact that they got new support as well, it's still not as good because nothing can hold a candle to Miscellaneous Swords. It's just too good of a card. And the fact that it's not even just protection, the fact that it's also a special summon when you banish dinosaurs from the grave, And also the fact that dinosaur cards also have cards that can like take advantage of being banished, such as Giant Rex and stuff like that. Yeah, dinosaurs are absolutely crazy. Like, if you bring back dinosaurs to full power now, they will be dominating the format without a doubt.
Next up, we have Cleefort. I would say they probably go... Okay, I know you want to defend your frog, so let's put him here.
Thank you.
Cleefort Towers specifically. Monsters that are unaffected by card effects are called towers because of this deck. Cleefort Towers was such a monster of a card back when it came out. Like, a 3k body that was pretty consistently brought out, that's just unaffected, is just insane. During the period where it was meta, it had, you know, a good bit of competition with decks like Shaddolls and Burning Abyss, but despite that, it's such a strong deck, and I feel like that's mainly because of its towers. So, you know, it left a legacy of, you know, cards being unaffected, being called towers after this based boy. However, modern day Cleefort are not doing much.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. And like the format they were in with like Shaddolls and Burning Abyss, like each deck was able to kind of combat each other. It was pretty much like a circle. The fact that people call like monsters that are hard to get rid of towers, being like homage to this deck right here, is like really integral to the identity of the deck, in the sense that a lot of powerful cards people just use as slang terms. Like, people say stuff like, oh, Witchcraft Creation, oh, it's the Rhoda of the deck. Like, Reinforce the Army is such an impactful, powerful card that people refer to like it in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh slang. So the fact that towers originated saying that, oh, that deck has a towers, it just shows the power of the deck. Still not as good as frogs though, I will stand by that, but you make some good points.
Alright, we have 6 Samurai.
This deck is based. I love this deck.
It's super cool.
It
definitely.
is so good. I feel like this deck is really good, and the fact that it still has like cards that are limited to it now, because it was just a 2-card combo where you can basically have a continuous spell card that's able to special summon dudes, and also has a Pot of Greed to it as well. Is just absolutely insane. The only thing I will say that's like holding this deck back from being like really good nowadays, besides the ban cards, is the fact that all of their guys are very, very small. They're not big, huge monsters that are like being able to like absolutely demolish decks. It still has like, I mean, Shen is like 2100 attack or something like that. But here's the thing, this is one of these decks that kind of like did it all. One being, of course, the Pot of Greed I mentioned. Also, they're Swarming a Field effect, but also they have like really good searchers as well. Like that Smoke Signal is able to search any level 3 of your 6 Samurai guys. It's just really, really good. I don't know if it's as good as ABC Dragon, but 6 Samurai was able to pop off. I think it is in the right spot right now, because I feel like if we brought back the cards that are currently like limited, it will spiral out of control. So yeah, I think it's in the right spot where it needs to be right now.
I feel like 6 Samurai, it definitely feels like a modern deck, even though it came out so long ago. It's like very close to a modern combo deck. It just does all the things that modern combo decks do, but just worse by the fact that it came out like 10 years ago. But you know, pretty damn good. Okay, Orcust, here we go, toss format boys. Orcust is an awesome deck. Orcust is so cool. If they bring back cards like Heart Power, this deck, you know, could be playable again. The thing is, it was insane for the time. It was like so good for the time. But now in the game, even if they unbanned like all the crazy cards around Orcust, it's not, you know, gonna break the meta at all. Like, here's the thing, if they unbanned Heart Power, it would not be as good as if they unbanned Colossus. So I think it goes about here. It kind of holds up, but especially with the limits and the bans on their cards, it would struggle nowadays.
Yeah, I'd agree. If we're looking at it as like a pure Orcust deck, it deserves to be in the spot where it is in now. But I will mention the fact that so many people just threw in mini Orcust engines into a bunch of different decks. It really shows the power of Orcust in itself. Like, Orcust cards on their own, they can pretty much kind of like gel their way into a lot of machine decks or whatever. But if we're kind of looking at this as in like this was the pure Orcust deck. Still very, very good for TOS format, but just the fact that there were other ones that were slightly better, Sky Strikers, I would probably say it's good where it is right now.
Alright, Trick Stars. I think, you know, Trick Stars are not bad. Pure Trick Stars probably belong around here. I do remember Sky Striker Trick Stars was like, you know, a pretty good deck for the time. But you know, Trick Stars, oh, they burn you for 200 again and again and again. It's annoying and it was very good for the time. But you know, it has not held up like at all. It's just, you know, it's not that good of a deck.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny nuisance more than anything. I mean, it's funny if you're playing it, if you're piling it. It's a nuisance you're playing against it, because just seeing your life points burn 200 every time you breathe is just annoying. So I think it's in the right spot.
It's definitely one of those decks that, you know, it came out when Lynx came out, and like just the fact that it was a Link deck made it broken. But nowadays, you know, it doesn't hold up at all. Okay, Dark World FTK. I think maybe about like here. Mainly because, you know, Dark World FTK was a very consistent FTK deck. And nowadays, obviously, a lot of the cards that made this possible are gone, thank God. FTK decks are always very kind of like gimmicky. Even if they're consistent or whatever, they're not gonna be the best. Now, Dark Worlds are a good deck today, like pure Dark Worlds or Danger Dark Worlds. They're a very strong rogue deck, but they wouldn't like compare to a lot of other decks. I mean, Dark World has always like seen meta relevance, you know. When it first came out, they had Grapha, which alone put it in like meta contention. I do think it struggles a lot. I think it wouldn't like. I think the very concept of the deck is too luck reliant to be like to break out of this tier. Next up, what's this deck called again?
Spellbook.
Next up, Spellbooks. I feel like, I know this kind of sounds dumb, but they were like that good at the time. I know they're not good now, but like greatest decks of all time, I feel like this deserves to be like up there. Because you know, this was Spellbooks, this like was the format, this was like tier 0. It got Spellbook of Judgment banned almost instantly. This and like Dragon Rulers coming up are probably some of the best decks Yu-Gi-Oh's ever seen.
Yeah, I think Spellbook to Dragon Ruler is what Sprite was to Tier Elements. Just mostly by the fact that one deck was so good that they had to support one a bit more just to try and contend with it. Ultimately getting their best card, i.e. Spellbook of Judgment, vice versa, Sprite Elf, banned. But yeah, I think it's still very, very good. I don't think it's as good as Dragon Rulers, but yeah, I think it... If it doesn't deserve to be in the top tier, I would put it like at the top of tearing the game apart.
Maybe, yeah.
Like just because there's a lot of great decks that like can fill up that top tier more than Spellbook, so I'd probably put it there.
All right, we have Gladiator Beasts now. This is a deck that for its time was insane, but has fallen off so badly.
Yeah, you don't want to be like in battle phase, then end of battle phase switching your thing out. Like, it's just not good anymore. Gladiator Beasts, they were great, yeah, and like they still have some cool support, but their gimmick kind of fell off and it's not as good as it was.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, speaking of decks that can fill up this top tier, Kashtira is absolutely insane. Not only is this a deck that can pretty much do a lot of different things, the fact that you're able to zone lock one of the most annoying things people hate in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this could almost zone lock your entire board is just annoying. And the fact that Cash is out, it's not really a tier 0 format with Cash. Cash never really seen the popularity that Tier Elements did, like just one format before it. But Cash is still insane. It is still annoying to this day. The cards are printed so recently, so of course they're fresh in our minds of being ultimately very, very annoying.
The thing is, it's not even just a zone locking. Arise Heart himself being like a 3k floodgate that can pop. It's an insane card. Like, it's one of the most broken cards that's been printed. Along with the engine of like Fenrir, which not only is a searcher, but it's a banish as well. You also have Unicorn, which can look at your extra deck, so it gives you like knowledge, deck knowledge. A bunch of other strong like Xyz, obviously an Xyz deck, so it can use Zeus. So, you know, it's one of those decks that it just has everything going for it. Now, obviously it has counters, but if you show this deck to, you know, someone from 2010, they would just die. Like, their soul would be gone.
Okay, speaking of crazy ass decks, Zoodiac, I think, for the time, definitely better than Kashtira. Mostly just because Trident, so nice, had to ban it twice. Holy crap, Zodiacs were great. This was the most consistent deck of all time. I think it's still, even if you look back, it is probably still a very consistent deck. The fact that like cards are still banned and limited is absolutely insane. It is the reason that Dryden is banned, Rapateer is at 1. You cannot play Zodiacs anymore like you could back in the day, mostly because of the decks like Zeus and stuff like that. But when Zeus came out, Zodiac came back for a little bit, so much that I had to ban Dryden again. If you are part of a deck that gets your same card banned twice, your deck is a problem. But it is so based. Definitely top tier deck.
Honestly, like I feel like at least this was where I heard the term tier 0 deck. This is where I first heard of the idea that, oh, a deck that like literally everyone in a tournament plays. Like the top 16 of a tournament is all Zodiac. That's insane. And you know, I feel like if they brought back all the Zodiac cards, this deck would still be insane. So yeah, I think it belongs where it is. Next up we have Nekroz. I feel like Nekroz is probably below Spellbooks.
Really? I would have thought they'd be more, just because the consistency sort of thing. The fact that a ritual deck is up here is a miracle to begin with.
Fucking hilarious.
But like, it's such a consistent ritual deck, and it's absolutely insane. I think just in terms of consistency alone, Nekroz would be better than Spellbooks. But in terms of other aspects of the deck, I don't really know. I would fight an argument saying Nekroz is better than Spellbook, but I'm not really sure. I didn't really see Spellbook too much, but just seeing history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how they took advantage of Nekroz and how long they were relevant for, I think that it gives them a better argument than Spellbook, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair actually. I was just thinking like, it can actually floodgate so badly if you use that one ritual guy. You can just lock your opponent out of special summoning, which is, you know, so bad that people had to gentleman out of having the card in their side decks. So, you know, it's a pretty damn good deck. But again, it's been banned, and even if it was unbanned, I don't think it would, you know, I don't think it would be very good in the modern day, even with like everything it had. Okay, we have Lightsworn. Lightsworn was one of the OG powerhouses. It's just such a cool deck, and for the time it was like revolutionary. It was insane. The fact that you could just get out like so many cards, you could get out like a boss monster super easily, kind of like the OG Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. It's just insane, and it worked well with like Chaos as well. Yeah, it changed the game forever. It was one of those like milestones in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the power level just jumped up so much with the introduction of Lightsworn.
I'd agree, yeah, but I still think that Lightsworn is one of these decks that is so like heavy reliant on luck as well, because you need to be lucky with what you mill. I don't think it's as good as Six Samurai. I'd put it like just below Six Samurai. It's still very, very good. Doesn't deserve to be in burn for 200, but I still think Lightsworn is still a really good deck.
Lightsworn walked, so Tier Elements could have run. Next up we have Fairy Agents. This won the 2011 World Championship. Relied on, you know, the agent cards and floodgates like Oracle or Christia. It's okay.
It's fine. Like,
it's, you know, it's just a kind of a strong combo type of floodgate deck. Yeah, modern day it kind of sucks, but you know, it's like not bad. I like the idea of it, and kind of a lot of decks nowadays kind of function the same way. You know, you have a main combo and then you kind of end on a floodgate. It's very, you know, very modern in that way. But yeah, it's like, for the time, very strong, very cool, but I think besides the World Championship win, it was like had zero relevance.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much to say about this. I think it's fine to where it is.
Best deck, let's go! Blue Eyes White Dragon!
So based. So based.
Blue Eyes won the 2016 World Championship, we all know that. They literally made it so it could. They printed Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, which was a direct counter to Pendulums. It made the deck insane. It could negate cards in the grave, so it countered like a lot of the meta decks. They literally made Blue Eyes so it could win, which is crazy. The power of Konami, they can make Blue Eyes of all decks win a World Championship. They could make any deck win a World Championship, like Red Eyes or like Dark Magician, but they're not gonna, because Blue Eyes is the best.
Kaiba is king.
There we go. That's the Kaiba influence right there. Sky Strikers, we got the Toss format, boys. I feel like Sky Strikers, it's not like, you know, a meta deck, but it's like definitely a rogue deck, and it kind of always has been, besides when it was meta during TOS format. It's just one of those like very strong control decks, but it can also like OTK out of nowhere.
I think put them up in the. I'm gonna guess what you're playing. Here's the thing: if you're looking back on TOS format, no matter what, Sky Strikers were always played. People gave up on their Thunder Dragons because they weren't loyal. We were all loyal to Ray. No matter what, we went through a hell of a ban list. We still powered through, even though our decks sucked. We still powered through. And now we're still getting our sweet engage, hopefully back to 3 eventually. It's just one of these decks that will never go away. It's a fan favorite, people still love it. I think that if Orcust was able to get back some of their cards the way Sky Striker got back some of the cards, they would still be seeing relevance. Just the fact that Sky Strikers are able to keep playing and they keep getting support, I find it to be the best deck. Let's go, and I'll never give up on this deck. It is the best.
It's pretty crazy that Sky Strikers are still getting support. That's how much of a fan favorite deck they are. That's how relevant they were back in the day, and how their relevance just kept going throughout the years. Even after ban list after ban list, after formats where this deck could just not function, the deck's still going, so that's pretty based. Alright, Dark Armed Dragon, Chaos stuff, okay. So this deck, I'd say just because this is classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Armed Dragon is like the best deck of the time.
Teledad was crazy, it was really big in Edison format, I'm pretty sure. And just a deck that's pretty much top in one of the most diverse formats that there ever was. Really speaks leaps and bounds for the deck itself. To be the best of a format that has so many different like huge contenders is just really great. If you're thinking about the likes of TOS format, yeah, there's like 4 great decks. If you're thinking about Tier format, yeah, there's like 3 great decks. Edison format had like 20. And the fact that you have the best of like that many decks really speaks leaps and bounds for the deck itself. Teledad is just a fan favorite. People love the format and still go back to it, so it still deserves a high point in this list. Not necessarily a good deck if you're kind of like comparing it to modern sort of standards like we are with a bunch of these, but still the fact that it kind of like it's one of these decks a lot of people return to play that format just because it was so much fun. That's the one thing we should probably consider as well, just the fun factor of the deck too. So if we're going by that, yeah, it deserves to place really high on this list where it is right now.
If we're going by that, Kashtira should be bottom tier.
Okay, well that's true too, but we don't talk about that part.
Alright, Inzectors. I'm gonna be honest with you, Inzectors did win. Inzectors did win the 2012 World Championship, but after that, where did they go? I feel like they popped up and just left.
I feel so sorry for Inzectors because the amount of times they were promised support, even like there was a competition and a fan designed a card and they released the card in, was it Mavens or something like that, but it just never saw play. Inzectors have such a fun idea. Any deck that uses equip spells I find to be really cool, like Noble Knights or whatever. Inzectors worked their way in the sense that the monsters themselves were able to equip, like Horna was able to equip and then kind of like pop off. The fact that you can loop it to sort of like destroy your opponent's board is really cool. The fact that the deck was only like out for like a little while before they instantly hit it, like limiting Dragonfly and stuff like that, and even I think they banned Horna at one stage as well. Inzectors were just really cool for the time, really fun, just aged sort of poorly, but if they get the right support in the right hands, Inzectors can come back and be really fun. I think Inzectors, they kind of remind me in the sense of Crystal Beast. Sure, they get laughed at and they were clowned on, but when the support finally does hit, people will rue the day, so I'm fucking living for that right now.
Next up, Pepe, Performer Pal, whatever. Yeah, this deck was insane.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely insane.
There's not much to say about it. It got like, this was during the peak Pendulum format. You know, this is during Master Rule 3 where Pendulum was the top dog, just the deck that could do anything. And yeah, it got like 1 million cards banned. So yeah, not much to say about it. This is an insane deck. But you know, again, if it did get unbanned, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference because Pendulum suck. Mystic Mine, here's the thing, Mystic Mine is like, it was a good deck, you know, won a lot, but you know, it's Mystic Mine stall. It was a tough deck to play through because as a Floodgate is one of the best Floodgates Yu-Gi-Oh's ever seen. But there's not much to say about it. It got banned relatively quickly. It only really caught on in meta relevance near the end of its lifespan. And you know, it's just, it kind of lived in infamy for a long time. So I feel like a lot of people didn't play it out of kind of like shame. Like, I'm not going to bring Mystic Mine to a tournament because it's that like toxic, you know? But as a deck, it definitely was very strong, very difficult to play through. I know you can say, oh, just side in back row removal. That's not good enough when you play 3 Mystic Mine, Metaverse, Terraforming, Planet Pathfinder. It's not good enough. Mystic Mine as a card is just that good.
Yeah, I honestly just hate the deck. It was annoying as hell.
Infernobles, we're going to mainly talk about Infernobles kind of with like the Smoke Grenade of the Teeth, kind of hand rip style. So, you know, they came out and things were going well, and then people found out, oh, you can hand rip infinitely with the Smoke Grenade of the Teeth. So that's pretty bad. It even ended up getting the card banned. And the thing is, once the card was banned, Infernoble Knights fell off completely, pretty much. No Infernoble Knight card got banned. Just, you know, that one equip spell, and then the deck's gone. So the thing is, like, there are so many powerful equip spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! So it would make sense that a deck focusing on equip spells would find some broken technique like that. But without it, the deck is, you know, not great. It is cool they got new support.
Oh yeah, it's getting hell new support now, and it's actually really, really good. They're able to bring up their own like super easily now.
But you know, as like, it's nowhere near top tier. But it's a very cool deck.
Speaking of hand rip,
Here we go, wind up. Maybe something like this. I'm not too sure.
I think they could. Honestly, they could have gotten interrupted fairly quickly. They were great, but I don't know if they're as good as Orcus and stuff like that. I think Wind Up, if they just get Zane Meity unbanned, it can still be really, really good and really, really fun. It could just be interrupted a bit more than it was before. But like any deck that kind of like hand rips and loops that stuff over and over again to make you not play the game, it's just kind of toxic and like not fun at all. However, Wind Up did more than just that, and they still have like some powerful like cards that are able to like regenerate themselves and kind of spam the field a little bit. I still think that the deck can play well if they get Zenmaity back, but I don't see it being like as relevant as it once was.
Here we go, Chaos Emperor Dragon. I just think for like, you know, the legacy it left behind.
Oh, the Yodalock? Yes.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
This is one hell of a card. And like pre-errata, this card was kind of insane.
Yeah.
It just, you know, breaks the game. Yeah, your opponent loses their hand, field, everything. In like a time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where that was all you had. Graveyard effects didn't really exist. The Yodalock as well on top of this. You know, this is the tier elements for 2004, pretty much.
This was like when people started like taking Yu-Gi-Oh! In the sense that it's kind of like, okay, there are fun strategies we can make with this game. It's not just, I summon this, you summon something bigger, okay, I'm screwed. It's like you can actually play around and make stuff, kind of work your way and actually come up with like strategies yourself to make like crazy sort of situations. It's really good in that sense. I think this is the first time like a deck made people like cop on that this is more than just silly monsters hitting each other sort of thing. So I think I have a lot of respect for this sort of deck right here.
We have Burning Abyss. Now, Burning Abyss was pretty damn good. I think it was better than, well, that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like Burning Abyss is a better deck now, like in modern day, than Wind Up, for obvious reasons. But you know, it was so good that I got Beatrice like limited. This is part of the good old, you know, Clee Fort Shadal BA format.
It got a little bit power crept by the likes of Phantom Knights in the sense that yeah, sure, like small monsters that are able to rank up, and especially like rank 3s and stuff like that, but it's still really fun. I think the only thing that holds this deck back is the fact that it has a bunch of Burning Abyss monsters that say if you control a monster is not a Burning Abyss monster, like destroy this card, which can be annoying. I think if they didn't have that text, BA would be on another level, but Dante was relevant for so long and it's just still a really good card. And I still just really like it. I have a lot of respect for that deck just because it was at a time where it was Cleaver, Shaddoll, and BA. Again, as I said earlier, it was one deck fighting the other in a constant circle of which one was better. I just think it's really cool. It's really fun. I think it was definitely a really good deck. Probably better than Wind Up. I'd still leave it there, but not as good as Orcust, so it deserves to be in a spot where it is. Time for a C moment.
Here we go, Black Wings, best deck in the game. Okay.
Damage Step? Honestly, I would say this is the first deck where you can like absolutely swarm the board, like crazy amount. I would put it a little bit higher than Six Samurai. I don't know if it's better than the Dark World FTK, but you know, just for the pure cause that it was fun, I would put it higher than the Dark World FTK. Black Wings are so much fun. They're just great. It was the first like synchro deck that I really enjoyed. I don't know how to describe it. It's just one of these decks that has like really powerful searchers with Black Whirlwind. It's sort of like this fan favorite deck that's still getting support. There was even a green set I will add recently that mostly centered around Black Wings. Darkwing Glass was such a revolutionary set for the format that it was released in, giving us some really cool legacy support with Black Wings and introducing some crazy new cards with Bestials. I don't know, I just can't praise Black Wings enough. I love them. They're a pure C moment, and Damage Step Kalut. What more can I say?
Adamanticators, let's go. This deck was kind of insane. This deck got Block Dragon and Prank Kids Meow Meow Mew banned. So, you know, it left a lot of damage in its wake. It destroyed a lot of good decks that didn't do anything to deserve it. This deck was this was one of the strongest combo decks for like a long time. Even now, if you play Master Duel, you know how toxic this deck is. With cards like Grass is Greener, milling a bunch of cards and you get like your Rock Engine going. And yeah, this can end on like insane boards with like powerful floodgates. Now, you know, the deck never kind of won any world championships or anything like that. I'm sure it got some like tops at events, but it was like hit way too fast. Not way too fast, but it was hit very fast, and it didn't kind of like ruin the meta. You know, it is a very strong deck, and I feel like at full power, this would be the combo deck. This would be like, you know, this would be kind of like the Dragon Link of like rocks, if you know what I mean. Next up, Salamangreats. I feel like we have to put all these boys together. I think Salamangreats, I know they got new support, but just their whole like kind of play style is not the best. You know, it's a cyber style, so that's not too bad. It has a lot of generic support. The monsters are pretty good, but you know, Salamangreat is just one of those decks that like, it will keep getting support that will kind of keep it in the same status no matter the format. It will always be kind of like a decent rogue deck at best. Now, you know, it did have its like time in the sun, but that time is long gone.
Salamangreats, yeah, cool deck. I really like the idea of linking off for the same monster and stuff like that. But I don't think it's seen its time. It's good. If Gazelle comes back to 3, I don't think it will make too much of a meta relevance. Here's the thing, if you're talking about like great decks, you have to really consider the cards that are currently banned and limited, and think of how much of an impact they'd have if they become unlimited. And with Gazelle, people are always saying it won't make a difference, so like, it's fine. It's a good deck, great for the time. As of right now though, I don't think it will be as powerful now, even with the new support. It has one great card, pretty much the only reason to buy that new shit set, so yeah, okay in that sense, but yeah, I think it's sunset now. The time the sun is done.
We have Dragon Rulers, I'd say here about.
I am such a sucker for Dragon Rulers. Put them higher. I fucking love Dragon Rulers.
Something like this, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd actually put them above Kashtira, to be quite honest with you.
I know.
What? Come on.
Okay, maybe for the time.
You know you want to.
Maybe for the time.
Here's the thing I will say about Dragon Rulers. The reason why I put it above Kashtira is the fact that all of them were released as rares. The fact that everyone had access to this deck means that everyone was playing it. Kashtira was like... The only common in Kashtira was Ogre. And no one gives a fuck about Ogre. All the Kashtira cards were so expensive, they're still so expensive. What I really respect about Dragon Rulers is, yeah, it's such a crazy, insane deck, but everyone can play it. It was so accessible. The best deck was actually printed in rares and lowers that you actually didn't mind. You didn't mind going against it because you know everyone was playing it, and it's just a lot of fun. It did take. I will say that like the expense came in the fact that like Big Eye was like €100 or something like that, but Fenrir was 70 and you needed 3. So I think Dragon Rooters I would always respect just because it really showed a sort of sense that everyone can play it, and that's what I love about decks like Sky Striker or whatever. Versions out there that aren't budget friendly, which you're going to be paying like a lot of money to play. But I respect Dragon Rooters because they were all anyone could sort of buy them and still play them. But with the likes of Kashtira or whatever, yeah, you only play it if you're rich. So like you kind of make your choice there.
Next up, we have Spirals. I think this is this is a good deck. You know, it's kind of decent. Yeah, one of the best combo decks the game's ever seen. Could make boards that were pretty much unstoppable. Back in the good old days when we had Firewall Dragon, unerrated. You know, this deck got a lot of cards banned, and for good reason. This was one of the best combo decks the game has ever seen. Yeah, I'm just glad I didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! During Spiral format. That's all I can say.
This is just another deck that I feel is a C moment. Moving on.
Alright, we have Constellar. So Constellar did see their time in the sun. They did get like a good top. I think they won a world championship. They do have an alt win condition with one of their Xyz monsters, which is hilarious. For the time, pretty good, but they definitely fell off a lot. They are not able to compete in the modern day. They do keep getting support though, which is very cool. Consistently over the years they have been getting support, so you can play it in 2023 and find some success with it. But you're not going to be like winning any events. You might win your locals, but that's about it. It's a cool deck though. I do like the kind of the idea of it. I like rank 4 decks. They're pretty cool, and I think this is a damn good one. Okay, Tier Elements, best deck in the history of the game. That's just my opinion, but I think a lot of people agree this is the best deck Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever seen in its 23 years of the life of the game.
Yeah, I don't think we can ever see a deck like Tier Elements again. It's just it's a once in a lifetime deck. It is absolutely great. There's nothing that we can add to that. We cannot talk. We can sit here for hours and talk about how good Tier Elements is, but there's no point. Everyone already knows how good they are, so we'll just swiftly move on.
I will just say one thing. So a lot of people say that the graveyard is a second hand, and when you can go plus 16 in the graveyard off of one card, that's just like 8 Pot of Greeds. So this deck should just be 8 Pot of Greeds basically. If this deck is fine, then Pot of Greed is fine, and just put it to 8, pretty much. Okay, Shaddolls. I think they should go up probably about here, something like that. Well, maybe about here, because they were very good, obviously, and they still are good. But I don't think they ever had the impact on their format like decks like Spellbook and Necros. But they're still a very playable deck because they never lost relevance. Winda's one hell of a card. They got like Winda and Construct banned. They introduced Shaddoll Fusion, one of the first fuse from deck cards, which has become a staple in Yu-Gi-Oh! One of the first graveyard decks, again, kind of like the prequel to Tier Elements, kind of like mill your cards, send your cards to grave, get effects from your cards in grave, all that. I feel like they belong around here.
I think you made your own argument why it's better than Spellbook.
Yeah.
Like Spellbook got one card banned, made it like not playable. Shaddol needed 2 cards to be banned in order to be like unplayable. And it's back again. People are still playing Shaddolls more than playing Spellbook. So I think maybe they weren't as good as Necros at the time, but I still think Shaddolls better than Spellbook.
Okay, we have Monarchs, or like Frog Monarchs. I feel like this belongs around kind of like Dark Arm Dragon. Because like they're both kind of the OG meta decks, right? They're both like 2004, 2005, around that time. These were the decks to beat. Like these were the meta back in the golden age of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, the Monarchs were really groundbreaking for the game. They're still really cool. I love Monarchs. Not much I can say. It's a product of its time, but it's still a good product, so that's pretty much it. I also really like the fact that the Monarch structure deck was so good that if you just bought 3 of the structure deck, you can have a good chance of like going to a tournament and actually doing very well for yourself. So yeah, I think definitely they tore the game apart.
Next up, Dragon Link. I do believe that Dragon Link is one of the best decks of all time, mainly because it uses like dragons from, you know, the game's inception. Like, you're using dragons from years and years ago alongside modern dragon support. The deck is just kind of like insane. It's always been relevant. You know, dragons have always been relevant in the game in one form or another, be it dragon rulers or, you know, Blue Eyes White Dragon or the Bestials or the Rockets. Dragons have always been relevant. And Dragon Link, especially from 2020 onwards, has always been a deck in the meta. Be it Rogue or, you know, Tier 2, Tier 1, it's always been there. And, you know, it won the World Championship in 2023 this year. So I feel like you can't sleep on this deck. Dragon Link is the king. And finally, Infernity. You could get out a bunch of Trishulas and you could banish your opponent's hand. Kind of
based.
Okay, let's leave it at that. So that's it for the best decks of all time tier list. Now, we did not play through all the formats, so we're kind of just looking back from our limited knowledge. If you played in these formats, let us know what you think. You might have different opinions. You might think that spellbooks are based and belong in top tier.
They don't.
True. You might think that spirals are cringe and belong in bottom tier.
They don't.
So, you know, let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Give us suggestions for more tier lists in the future. And yeah,